What's happening, chaps? Welcome back to Chaps Chat. This is episode 2 with myself, Oliver.
And me, Dom.
So just starting off from our last episode where we give you guys a little bit of information about myself and Dominic and our friendship and why we're doing Chaps Chat. We left you guys on the note of 85% of our followers took part in a poll, stated that they had or have a mental health issue but have never had it diagnosed. We wanted to give our opinions on this and also give you guys a little bit of information about our experiences of being diagnosed and how we got there. But just to make it clear, guys, we are not therapists. We are just two chaps chatting. This is just our opinions. It is advice that you don't have to take, but we hope you do because it can be helpful. So just to start off, Dom, on that statistic of 85% of our followers for that, what's your take on that?
Mate, shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking. It's like, I think it's like we got into it a little bit in the last episode that for me, the first thing I felt like was like, because a lot of these people, obviously, with Chaps Chat being fairly new, a lot of these are just people like that are friends or acquaintances and so on, yeah? But I thought, you would never think that. You would never think like, even I said 10%, probably even 5%. You wouldn't even think we're feeling that, like, since we're feeling bad behind that. But that comes back to that thing of people do hide it well.
Yeah.
Especially if it's not someone who's, especially like, you got to think, me and you have spoken like that, we're best friends. But someone who's like maybe just an acquaintance, like it's not something you're going to be coming out and saying. So it was mad to think that many people that we know well are experiencing stuff like that. It's kind of saddening as well. Like, obviously, we don't want people to be feeling that way. Do you know what I mean? It's when we know how it feels. So, but I didn't think it would be such a high number. And what's also, I think the most worrying thing is that if everyone, like, put it like this, if we put out everyone who's broke their leg, you would have been diagnosed, right? Like, they're going to you diagnose yourself. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, for 85% of people not to be diagnosed when they have a health issue, is that right? I
don't think so. I think that just all comes down to the whole stigma of not wanting to speak up. As you said, if it was a physical issue, you go get that checked out straight away.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
That's it.
If you had a problem with your heart or something like that, you go get that checked. No matter what it was, you'd be on the case to get that checked to make sure you got it checked correct. Do you know what I mean? But because it's something that's in our mind, it almost feels like, oh, this isn't going to affect me long term.
It's like, do you know what people look at it like? It's like, because it's in your mind, it's like it don't exist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is stupid. Do you know what I mean? Because everything that does exist, you think from your mind, right? Do you know what I mean? But yeah, mate, 85% of people are not being diagnosed. And I think when we look at kind of, I think both men and women, obviously, men only make up 36% of referrals, right? So you got to think there's a lot less men being referred to the mental health services than there are women. Why? Is it number one, stigma? That's why. I'll guarantee you. Like, who no one feels comfortable, right? I can imagine going to, I know I didn't, trying to get referred and go through mental health and therapy, right? But I feel like men obviously feel a lot less comfortable to take that first step than women do, to be honest with you.
And do you know what? We were speaking about it a little while ago, like, women have that capability just to chat more, yeah?
Yeah, they like a chat, yeah.
We like a chat as well. Yeah. I mean, women can sort of, do you know what, meet someone brand new, like a new person in a coffee shop, a friend of a friend or something.
Yeah. Sally and Sandra.
You know what I mean? Sally and Sandra. Next thing they're talking about where they're living, what's their dog's name, everything, mate.
Trust me.
Like, they go into depth a little bit more, and like, it's a great thing because it's just confidence, basically. But men, like, be honest, man. How many times have you gone into a pub and met the boys, and someone's bring up something that's wrong?
Never.
Like,
no, I don't think I've ever had that in a pub.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Let alone someone you don't know. Like, do you know what? You might be chatting to friends of friends in a pub. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, you met them, right? But you don't just go sit down to a random person and start chatting to them. Definitely about that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like that just in normal life circumstances kind of tells you, mate, how reluctant sometimes guys can be to put them in any unfamiliar situation, let alone going and referring yourself to the mental health services. Do you know what I mean? So,
and what's even more shocking about it is because when you do go and refer yourself to your GP or to the NHS, it is like confidential.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the doctor's not going to air your business.
Yeah.
On Instagram. to all your mates and that.
He's not shouting your name out the side of the hospital.
He's not
You know what I mean?
like, so that's a scary thing, because as much as it's confidential, we still don't feel that we can go and talk to that. Now, for me, that was because I looked at it as if this person doesn't know me. Yeah, this person ain't going to understand my story, isn't going to understand what's going on inside my head, why I'm feeling like this. Yeah. So I thought, what is the point of talking to this person when they don't know me?
Yeah.
And that's what really put me off for a while. Yeah, before I even went and got referred. So breaking that sort of attitude that I had was hard to do, because it's a sense of trust. You have to trust this person.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Do you know what I mean? So that was a massive thing. Like, how did you feel when you first got referred?
I felt like that as well. Like, similarly, in a sense of, it's like, imagine if you're someone that you haven't even spoke to your pals yet about it. Yeah, how do you feel like? And it's like, how does this person know my life? Like, how is their life relevant to mine? So how are they? Because it's like everyone wants to be understood in a more general sense, right? But in that situation, you need someone who's going to be very like listen and be understanding. But which they are a lot of time when you get. But before you experience that, you think, how are they going to relate to it?
Yeah.
Like, how are they going to relate to me? And it was like, do you know what? Something for me as well. I think this comes back just to the stigma. I felt like a little bit of like, almost like shame. Do you know what I mean? Almost like shame, like, oh, you're in this place where you have to do this, like, because you don't. It comes back to that thing where, because men don't talk about it, you don't think anyone else is going through this.
Yeah.
So you feel like, why is it me? Why am I the weak one? Yeah, like that has to go there, and and that's not what it is at all. Like, if anything, it makes you a strong person when you're going and you take that step to do self, because it's like anything, like any type of health, when you identify something's wrong, you need to try and get that fixed, right? But it was like, that was something that was quite worrying for me at first, and why I didn't want to do it. And I think that, I'll be honest, I found it easier. Like, it was like, I had an experience of doing it twice, speaking to men and women, and I always found it easier to speak to a woman about it.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't know why. You know what I mean? But that's what I always felt. You can read between the lines, take what you want from it. But yeah, like, it's mad. And I think taking that step, it's like, it was crazy when you experience it for the first time, but you never, and it's like anything, once you've done it, it's not such a big thing. But before that, from the outside looking in, I think men are very scared to take that step, because they may not want to admit to themselves that they're in that place. But it's like any issue, like admitting that there is an issue is always the first thing, like making that a real thing for you as well.
Yeah, and you know what, for me, like, I spoke to a woman as well when I got referred for the CBT. Lovely woman, like, it was cool. We got along. You know what I mean? I was able to like talk to her like as I would with like one of my mates, which was good. But it is that sort of sense of shame, because once you do get referred, and you know it's real, and they send you an appointment, right? This is your day. You're scheduled to talk in. You're like, geez, man, like, I'm actually gonna do this. Can I not do this by myself? Do I actually have to do this? And that's where it's like, probably pull away a lot, so you're not going to give the 100% commitment and be honest about everything, because you think, do you know what, the first one, let me just see how it is, cool. Second one, third one, and that's how I was, and I was never like really giving that 100%, because I just thought, you ain't going to relate to this, you know what I mean? Why am I going to be open about it? Like, you're just going to tell me things that you tell every other person on here.
Yeah.
But that's just me not trusting the process and letting that person do their job, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
no, definitely, mate. And I think, like, for me, I've had two experiences of referring or being referred to the mental health services. The first one was when I was quite young. And funny enough, like, depression was the main issue I had when I was younger, but don't get me wrong, there's a little bit of anxiety thrown in there as well. There usually is, mate. They do. A lot of people who suffer from one suffer from both of them. Yeah. But my anxiety, let's say the worst time with anxiety was further down the line. But this one, I did have it back then. So I actually got referred for anxiety initially, not depression, when depression was the real issue then. But I went there one time, and it was like, I was a teenager at this time, and I think, like, obviously, I wasn't an adult. My mindset wasn't in the point where it was now. It was still in that mindset we were just speaking about, where it's like, I don't know this guy, like, who's this guy? Do you know what I mean? How are you going to relate to me? Like, not having an attitude about it. So I actually did it once, and the guy was just talking to me, and then never went back again. And then, like, thinking about that now, must have been when I was about 16, 17, and the worst time of anxiety that I've had was probably last year going into this year. So sometimes I think, like, if I'd been full-heartedly into that then, would I have had such issues down the line? And what I experienced down the line was a lot worse than what I experienced at that time. So I think it comes to that point as well, like, the time to take action is when you think about it the first time, and like everyone, I think I feel like everyone may hesitate initially, but it's just that's the right time to do it. So, and for me, that was like not the best experience to have initially, but I made that how it was from my point of view. That wasn't because they were bad at their job or anything. That was because of how I'm thinking about it. But it then made it more difficult down the line to then think I'm going to go back and do therapy now when I needed it, because of that experience I'd had before. But obviously, as you grow, I got to the point where I knew that there was a time where that was what I needed, and the second time wasn't really. I was speaking to someone, but we were doing what's called CBT, which you mentioned, which is cognitive behavioural therapy, and that massively helped me. This time it was the woman I was speaking with, and I felt, I don't know why. Again, I just felt much more comfortable. She was really understanding, and for me to get to that point, I actually got to the place where my anxiety was so bad. And anxiety's mad because you can get physical symptoms from it as well, because the brain's a very powerful thing. And it was the point that they'd got so bad, like, that I went online, and I kind of I have family members that work for the NHS, so I kind of got told what the quickest way to do it was, which was helpful from my side. But I went online and kind of in the borough that we live, or that I live, they've got a thing called talking therapies, and that's where I initially referred myself to. And do you know what? I'll be honest. The next day I got a call back straight away. They obviously, you have to fill out different things about what the problem is, and obviously, if you're at a certain level, then they're probably going to be a bit more quicker than other things, because there's like I don't know what they call it, but there's like a test you'll do every time, but they score you off, like, and they'll do that every time before you have a session to see how you're progressing or not progressing, either way. But I referred myself through them directly. I actually didn't go to the GP. You can go to the GP as well and refer yourself. Sometimes, depending what the services are where you are, it's quicker to maybe go direct, but I never knew the name of what that was. Do you know what I mean? Someone in my got a family member in the NHS told me. Like, other than that, I would have been going GP, and it might have taken longer. And time can be an issue in these things sometimes, obviously, with some people. So that was the way I referred myself. And then you kind of just have like an initial call. They speak to you and kind of like, what are the issues and stuff. And then there's different ways you can go in terms of therapy. Like, I can't remember the other option they gave me, but they said CBT, or it may have just been speaking with someone in general. I'm not too sure, but CBT is one of the most frequently used therapies for anxiety, and massively helped me. I went through that with them. You get a certain amount of sessions. After the sessions, obviously there's a course of CBT they finish, and it's like when you go, if you've ever been to a physio, like the physio, they tell you there's stuff you need to do after you leave. Yeah. It's like that. It's like you got work to fix yourself, right? Like
homework, isn't it?
Like nothing straightforward.
No.
But yeah, that was my journey to actually getting in there and getting through there. And then, don't get me wrong, like, there's probably times after that I thought I nearly referred myself back, like once. Do you know what I mean? And then I was like, I kind of like, that was off the back of kind of being out one time, and I obviously, like, sometimes if you've been out kind of drinking alcohol and stuff like that, like, alcohol's a depressant, so that's never going to do you no favours. Do you know what I mean? So obviously sometimes after having a night out, you might feel a bit down and out, and it was after that, and alcohol actually heightens anxiety as well. So I think I was just in a bad place one time, and off the back of that, and then I kind of got to the point where I felt, well, look, a couple of days later I felt a bit better, and I wasn't back in the same place where I have had all these bad symptoms, like physical symptoms that I had with anxiety before. So I didn't actually go with it that time, but kind of been out of that space. Like, don't get me wrong, it's never fully gone. Like, there'll be certain situations where I do get a little bit of anxiety now, but going back to when I was in therapy, it's nothing as bad as it was then for me. So that was my journey towards finding therapy, getting in there, what it was like, and then how it was on the other side. But I think what's really beneficial is I know you had a slightly different route than I did towards therapy.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so my initial mental health issues were to do with grief, so depression and anxiety as well. So it was sort of a mix. But with me, I phoned up the GP because I wasn't even that aware. Like, as you said, the physical symptoms. Like, I started getting them bad, mate. Like, pains and that everywhere. Mad. Yeah, it was mad, and that you don't know what's going on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so initially I spoke to the GP because it could have been anything, and they parred me off with tendonitis. Yeah.
Did they?
Yeah, tendonitis.
I don't even know that. What's tendonitis?
It's like where your tendons like inflamed and things. Yeah. And I knew it wasn't that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
You only know in your gut, like, and in your head, you're like, nah, it's something else.
Yeah, you don't do any exercise at all. So I don't know where you had inflamed any tendons, mate. You know what I mean?
You know what? I never did, but I'm starting.
Are you doing it now? That's good. That's good.
Right. But yeah, that's what they pardon me off, and that was in the hospital actually. So then they sent obviously the letter of update back to my GP of me checking into the hospital, yeah. And then I spoke to a doctor, and they went through an assessment with me on the anxiety, yeah. And as you said, I sort of had to rate it, yeah, 1 out of 10, the severity of each different category, and like for me, it was 10, mate, on all of them, yeah, because that's how it was feeling at that time. Yeah. Getting panic attacks and all that, I weren't having it, so I needed to get seen to ASAP. So like it was 10 for me on everything, and then they tried to prescribe me with medication for it, yeah. Which is antidepressants, basically. For me personally, I didn't take them. I've been offered that before in the past as well, and I've never took them. Only reason is because like I've got family members who have had these, and you know, close people around me who have had them, and it is something that's easily hooked on. And I didn't want to fall into that, yeah, because I wanted to find out why I'm feeling like this for one, and I just wanted to learn for myself like how to do this. And obviously sometimes it is really bad where people do need to take that medication, understandable. Yeah. But it is important as well to understand that it's a temporary fix, because once you stop them meds, and the doctors will bring them meds down for you, yeah, reduce the tablets, then you're on your own. Do you get me? So you need to be prepared for it at one point. So for me, it was just, you know what, I'm just going to do it from get-go. So eventually, after that, and this was weeks of progress, mate, yeah? Like trying to get referred to a talking therapy. Finally got there. And yeah, mine was, as I said, to do with grief and anxiety, so it was a bit of a mix. Yeah, the grief side of things was like more to do with losses in my life. Which I'll go into a little bit more detail in an upcoming episode. But yeah, for me it was a little bit of a long process to actually get referred, and once I was doing it, I didn't have that trust in that person. I'd done about 5 or 6 and I actually quit. Yeah, and I stopped the talking therapy. I felt bad after though, do you know why? Because I know like these people, like they do try and help you, do you know what I mean? Like this is their job, yeah, and I've got to respect them and take my hat off to them, like, because it is important what they do. But for me, it was just like, it just wasn't really working, I'll be honest. Like, she taught me some exercises, like the breathing exercises, and when you are in that anxiety state, you know, look at things you can touch, see, and name them and speak them out loud and all that, take your mind off it. And I still used them, so I got a benefit out of it, do you know what I mean? But as it was just going on, I just didn't feel like maybe I was connecting that much, especially about the grief side of things, so overall, like, I wish that I knew that I could go straight to the talking therapies in my borough instead of going through the GP. Because it can get complicated. Next thing they tell you got this and that wrong with you.
It was quick. It was quick for me, bruv. Like a day, mate.
Yeah, that's good, man. And I hope people do take note of that. Just explain it to them again, Dom. Like,
so look at what I would do is I would Google firstly in your borough what are the mental health services in my borough, because I know talking therapies operate in a lot of boroughs in London, but I can't guarantee that they're done for everyone. And obviously there's going to be people listening to this outside of London as well. So just Google for the ones in your area, and it's always going to be quicker to refer yourself directly, because it's a referral through the GP is like a referral for anything else. So you know when you have to go to the hospital for something, sometimes, especially at the moment, it can take a long time to get booked in. So I would always say go directly and refer yourself, and obviously, like, you have to be honest about how serious your situation is, but like the more serious the situation, obviously generally the quicker they will come back. But for me, I got a call the next day, and then I was speaking to someone I think the next week. So it was very quick. So that's the best way to do it. Also look at what like mental health as charities are around you. They do a lot of stuff as well. Mine's always a good one that I've come across, but there are loads out there. So definitely have a look at those and see if there's any other services out, maybe outside the NHS, that are in your local community that would be good for you as well. As I know, obviously, with it being a big issue now, there are a lot of things that are popping up. So definitely have a look at that too. One thing I wanted to mention as well, I actually forgot this little element of mine, because you spoke about medication, and that was actually something I experienced as well the first time. So thinking of it like that, maybe that's a little bit mad. Like, I was maybe 16 and they just referred me pills the first time. Like, they give me, I can tell you what it was. It was Citraplan.
Yeah.
That's Citraplan. I think that's what it was called. And I stopped them after maybe like a week or 2 weeks, or actually it might have been longer than that. I'm not too sure, but I didn't play them out to the end of where they were looking for me to. Yeah. But I'll tell you why, because what the doctor explained to me that it does, and obviously, again, I'm not a doctor. Ollie's not a doctor. Don't just take this as like gospel for what the medication does, right? But what he said it was for me is like for feeling emotions in our heads. We all have receptors in our brains that make us feel like good, happiness, or whatever. Yeah. Then you obviously have one that makes you feel like worry, panic, and that's the receptor. Basically, Citraplan blocks that feeling. But for me, even if it's negative feelings, I don't think it's good to block anything, because that doesn't get rid of the issue. It seems, as you mentioned. Now, I'm not saying I don't think medication is a good idea, but I think there's if someone's taking medication, I still think there's stuff that they need to do alongside that on their own, because like you can't, when it's problems of the mind, you can't just take a pill to get away from it. But my exposure of it made me feel kind of like spaced out. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, I don't know, like a bit like Airhead, and I'm someone, I like to be on the ball, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, for me, it just didn't, even made me, like, a bit sick one time, do you know what I mean? So, for me, it wasn't the best thing, and I felt like it wasn't actually making an impact as well, like, I was still really getting the same feelings. What actually, I guess, at that time helped me was more, like, just like some stuff like breathing exercises, stuff like that. But for me, it didn't work that time, and I'm not like, that's not to say that this doesn't work for other people. Like, every single person's different, so I wouldn't don't let me saying this put you off medication, because you need to go and find out what is best for you. Don't not just listen to us. But for me, at that point, it didn't work, and I kind of I'm in the mindset that you have to deal with problems, not yourself, but in terms of like maybe lifestyle. That's always a big issue. Not a big issue, but a big part of like mental health is your lifestyle. It can be little things, like, for example, like for me, I had to stop drinking coffee for a while, because coffee really heightens anxiety. Yeah, and like, believe me, I love a double espresso and a fag. Do you know what I mean? So I was and it's difficult to me. And now I'm a little bit better. Now I can kind of have them, but a lot of the time I have to drink decaf, right? Do you know what I mean? Because it just doesn't. It's the caffeine that gives you the anxiety. It's little things like that when I'm speaking in terms of lifestyle. But yeah, like at this point, for that particular medication was not for me. But yeah, when you go to therapy, I would be you got to go with an open mind, right? Because it's probably something again that you've not experienced before. So you have to listen to the people who know and have helped people get better before as well. So yeah,
that's it. And just going off that. So when you was getting the CBT therapy and it was working for you, which is great. What else was you doing on the sidelines apart from that? Did you get into anything?
Yeah, so one thing you mentioned a little bit, I used quite a bit, was the breathing exercises again. Because with anxiety, what the breathing exercises are for is because you have this thing in your mind called fight or flight. Yeah. And that's when, like, I used to get really bad heart palpitations just because I was so worried. Your body thinks that something's going on and you need to, do you know what I mean? You need to escape, basically. Yeah. So that really helps regulate your heartbeat. Because also, it's like, if you are getting heart palpitations, that's not healthy. Like, especially if you're getting that over an extended period of time, like, that's not going to be good for you. But that was one of the things that helped me. Probably one of the main things that I still carry on to this day that helped me is meditation. And I'm someone, it's a bit hard to me to keep that much attention for time. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not there, like, for an hour cross-legged, do you know what I mean? But every morning, that's it. That I can do, actually, do you know what I mean? But I'll probably wake up, I would say near enough every day, definitely 5 days out of the week, in the morning, because it's like, we all work, right? You have to find a time. But it's like, you find a time and you make time for what you need, right? But I wake up in the morning and then I'll meditate, and I've been doing that maybe for like 5 months, 6 months. And that massively helps me. I think like you have a clearer mind when you go into the day as well. But for me, that really, really helps. That's probably the thing that's helped the most, outside of just like the CBT therapy in general. But yeah, like it's definitely something I would recommend to people, and it's like, it's not difficult like to do. There's an app that I used to kind of learn a little bit about it. It was an app called Headspace, which was quite good. So that might be something people want to look at if they want to learn a bit about meditation. But you don't need to do it for too long. I mean, probably the most I've done is like maybe 10 minutes at most, because it's hard to stay in that spot for a long time. And it's like, and don't worry about it. Like for me, it's like people say, oh, you need to have a clear mind. Like, you do want to keep a clear mind, but if you're just like, we all think, right, it's going to be hard not to have any thoughts for like 15 minutes to 5 minutes even. So yeah, you just do it how it works for you. But I would recommend kind of looking a bit into it, looking at Headspace and researching, or just trying it. Like sometimes you just want to get on and try things. Like not thinking about how you're going to do it, right? But that's probably one of the most key things that's happened or helped me.
Yeah, good. You know what? I actually tried that Headspace actually.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
They've got a really soothing voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally, bruv. Yeah. Same here, man.
No, it would like relax me and actually calm me down. So that is a good recommendation. To be fair, I need to get back onto that a little bit more because I don't do enough of that, and it is like a massive relaxation and can put you in the right mood. You know what I mean? But yeah, the breathing exercises for me as well is key because as you said, like I used to get loads of heart palpitations all the time. And yeah, it isn't good, man, regardless, do you know what I mean? So getting that breathing under control does keep the rhythm at the correct rate. So yeah, that's massively important. Cool. What about reading for you? Is there anything that you was focused on, like reading-wise?
So I'll tell you one of the most key books in my life. When I was suffering from depression, which for me, like the depression phase was probably the most difficult I've experienced, like when I had that when I was a bit younger. And I read a book called The Secret, which a lot of people I think may have heard of. It's about the law of attraction. But what I take from that, it's about positive thinking and not thinking negative stuff. Like, as I think we spoke about a little bit in the last episode, like positive thoughts breed positivity. Like, it's like, do you know what? If you think about one subject, if I thought about football all the time, then I'm probably going to get more thoughts about football further down the line. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what I'm thinking about. And it works the same with your thoughts. Like, you need to condition your own mind. That's what it taught me. And it gives a lot of different examples of different situations, real life people have experienced as well. But for me, it was just like I was doing daily affirmations, which I still do sometimes. So that's waking up and saying like, I'm successful, I'm great, I'm this, I'm that. And then you're feeding your mind. It's like you start feeding food. You're feeding your mind, and you're manifesting things in the future. Like with the podcast and other things I do, I'm manifesting now for what I want in the future and what I want to create and turn this into. So it's like along those lines. Do you know what? I would recommend everyone to buy it. Like, I know not everyone likes to read. Like, for me, I'm someone like maybe this year I'm now reading a lot more than I was previously because we need to educate ourselves, right? There's a lot that you don't get taught about in life and in school in general that you need to teach yourself about, and there might be a lot of stuff that you like learning about, right? So that's why I do it. But this book is about, I read it in a day. It was that helpful to me that
really?
I read it in a day, bro. Like, because it just my mind just took to it because it was what it needed at that time. Because it's like, don't get me, it's not like 500 pages. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can read it in a day. They got big words, so if you can see it, that's it, man. So but like I couldn't tell you any other book like, even whether it's not long, I've read in a day. Like, so for me, it was just what I needed at that time. And it's a book I've read multiple times as well. I probably read it 3 times over the years. And I think because like sometimes you just need to refresh yourself on things like that as well. And because you're always going to pick up different things every time you read a book as well. So definitely I would recommend for people to go out there and get it. It's not expensive. You probably get it off Amazon in a few days. So definitely if you're someone who struggles with feeling negative thoughts, I would very much recommend that book as something to read. And there, if you're a bit lazy, there is also a film called The Secret as well. So I think it might have been on Netflix before. I'm not too sure. It's worth a watch too alongside. I would recommend both. But there is a film as well if books aren't really for you or if that's something you can't do. Okay. But yeah, outside of that, what I was going to say is there's other books in the series as well that are definitely worth watching. But I'm not watching, reading. But may come onto that a bit later down in the podcast when I speak about some other bits. But that's something that's been so key for me, and I've got an appreciation for the person who wrote that because I'm guessing it's probably helped a lot of people similar to me. So definitely go out there and get it, guys. If you haven't read it, even if you're a positive thinker, still worth reading.
That's it. Perfect. Well, cool. That is the book of the week for you guys. So that was our sort of journey on mental health and how we sort of got referred. Of course, everyone has got their own journeys, and you will go on your own journeys when you do get referred or if you decide to do it. As I say, it's not a rush on these things. It's only when you feel ready. You never know how it might help you. So it definitely is worth taking that step when you are ready to do so. Cool. Well, yeah, thanks for sharing your side of things, Dom, as well. Just want to get on to quote of the week.
Yes,
so last week's quote, excellent. I think really empowering and really something to give the guys to think about, which is great. So this week, it is my dark days made me stronger, or maybe I was already strong and they made me prove it. I like this one.
I do.
This one's good.
I do.
This one for me is inner strength that you didn't know you had. Yeah. So my dark days made me stronger. Of course, we've all had dark days.
Yeah.
They're the worst at the time. When you come out of them, you do feel stronger about them. Yeah, you always will do. Maybe if you don't even recognize it, it could be years down the line until you actually realize, you know what, if I didn't go through that situation then, I wouldn't have dealt with this one now. Things like that. That's just a sense of self-empowerment.
Trust me.
Yeah, what do you think on that first line?
Yeah, mate. So I think linking in with what you said there, it's like at the time you probably don't feel strong. Sometimes when you're in the midst of it, you feel weak. But on the other side, like facing adversity gives you significant growth as a person. Like coming off the back of experiencing like depression, anxiety, you know it's made you harder, right? And I don't mean like obviously everyone wants to have more strength of mind. That's probably a better way to put it than harder, right? But it gives you a stronger mind. And when you're in situations where you do maybe experience those again, that you know how to I guess deal with that in your mind as well. So it's a lesson learned, and it's like you have to trip over. As long as you don't trip over the same stone once, then yeah. Do you know what I mean? I've forgotten the actual saying for that, but scrap that one. But literally, the next one. But I think it just gives you strength, and it's like to say that, like, because you've obviously been through something tough, right? So it's like whenever you go through something tough, you're going to learn from it. So that's why I like that one. And also mentioning dark days, like there's always bright days on the horizon, right? Yeah. So that's what you got to think as well.
That's it. And what it says next is, or maybe I was already strong. It's just so crazy though, because you can feel so weak and like worthless at a point when it is really bad in your life. Do you know what I mean? Like dark times, and they do hit everyone. Like no matter what it is, like people get affected by different things daily. And when it's something so significant in your life, or you know, it could be someone close to you, something's happened to them, or something's happened to you, like these times are really bad. Do you get me? But you have to find that strength within to be able to pull yourself out of that.
Yeah.
And this is what this is about, this chat. Definitely. Do you know what I mean? To be able to sort of give you that strength, like, to give you that platform to speak, because speaking does a world of wonders, believe it or not. And just gives you a lot more clarification. And it's always good to have, like, someone else's opinion on it as well. Like, when it is your mate.
Yeah.
Like, it's great because you don't even know what your mate could be going through. It could be the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's it,
and
man.
the next thing is like, boom, really? Wow, I didn't even know that. Then you start clicking and you're able to talk like that. So it is just about finding that strength, and we all do have it in us, whether you believe it or not, but it is there. You just got to find it and just pull it out as much as you can and just get through that. And that also just goes on to the next bit of, and they made me prove it.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like, for me, like the way I look at it, when I listen to that is, like, I've been in some of the worst places, like, that I've ever experienced off the back of mental health. That's probably some of the most challenging things I've experienced. But I've come out of that, and I'm in a place now where if I did experience that again, I'm in a place where I've got the tools to deal with it as well.
Yeah.
So like that's I think I've proved that there is a way out as well. Do you know what I mean? And that is the part that makes you stronger, kind of coming out of it, but in the midst of it as well. So that's definitely what that part of it means for me. But I think the quote as a whole is something that is quite impactful, because I think we're all human, right? So we're all strong. We all have different lives, but like everyone goes through some struggles in their lives, right? So we all have the strength to deal with whatever that is. If it's mental health, obviously, it's a tough thing, but we've got the strength to deal with that. And I think it's good to remind people that like there is a light, like I said, on the horizon as well a minute ago. But yeah, that's what I took from it personally.
Yeah, definitely, it is a massive positive quote. So yeah, guys, right, thank you so much for listening to episode 2 of Chaps Chat. We've really enjoyed this one. I have you?
I've had a great time.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Been good.
Yeah.
It's been good to chat. Also, just to get a little bit more in depth about the referral side of things, and to let you guys know that we are the same and we've been through this stuff. So next week we will be focusing a bit more on a specific mental health issue, and that will be depression. Now, we will have quite a lot to say about this, because we both experienced it quite severely at some points in our lives. So it will be a really interesting topic, and we really hope you guys tune in. Let us know what you think of this episode. Please like, share, and subscribe. And thanks once again.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you next week.